Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode. The title is When You Realize, Remember You. And I feel this is a unique angle at looking at the human being. Usually we need our eyes, and our eyes provide us content, and then we can have a relationship with the content of our sight. So first we need sight, it's kind of like we need an alphabet, then we can speak, or then we can in some sense share words. I have been fascinated by human intelligence for a while, and not ever since I was born, ever since 2011, when I noticed that in my own intelligence there is more unknown than known. And I don't know why our species refuses, but it doesn't globally, it doesn't on a massive level notice that there's more unknown than known. Because if there is more unknown than known, the world doesn't need students and teachers anymore. The world becomes just a massive exploration project. Now, of course, I am inclined towards mysticism and mystical context, and the reason is because mysticism and mystics have been defined as lovers of the unknown. That means there are those who can only love if it's known in a certain way, when there's a known self in a known world. But those who can love the unknown, that is the superior, that is the supreme state. It's like what does a person do after they have loved and explored their observable universe? They go beyond the observable. And so this has been avoided, and we have dismissed ourselves, not recognizing that we say we are bodies because we have a mind, but we need to have a mind first to create the concept of the body. Another way I say this is that the body can be pinpointed in time, but the mind that creates the concept of time for itself can't be pinpointed in time. It doesn't make sense. It's like the disparity, or it's like the dichotomy, it's like the duality between the thinker and the thought. That means, is a thought thinking it's a thought? That makes no sense. So therefore, the thinker is the unknown viewer within you, and the thoughts are that which is observed by intelligence. When a human being treats themselves as an intelligent being, and I forgot to mention this early, in my previous talk, 20 minutes of the talk was on mute, and in case if anything like that happens, as a backup system, I encourage the listeners, whenever you don't hear anything after 10 minutes, write a message. Just write no sound, and I'll pick it up. Because sometimes I click the mute button and I click on it quickly and I don't notice I haven't clicked it. One's real eyes is really the privilege. I ask myself, why do I exist? Simple question. Most immediately I look at the content of my moment and I'm like, okay, I exist in a body, biological, evolutionary based body. This body has taken a long time to be here, so my physical reasoning of my existence is that I'm here to experience the newest update of the human species. It's as if, imagine human life is like you're taking a vehicle for a test drive. And it is not the finale. It is at best a station. The yogis would acknowledge, the mystics, the Sufis specifically, that the soul has stations and has ranks, and souls are not of the same rank. There are some souls of the same rank can notice each other, but souls that are not of the same rank, usually there is a distinction. That means we thought there was class distinction just in the observable universe. The Sufis and the mystics and the ancient thought tells us in some sense that this class distinction goes on the superiority of awareness to being. That means on Earth, I would say in our outer realms, you have the bigger stick, you're like the alpha, but I would say as multidimensional beings, those who can be before they do are the alpha. So it's the opposite. Those who do before they are the alpha in the outer realms. Those who are before they do are the alpha in the inner realms, if you treat it as a multidimensional being. Of course, I'm saying this humorously. Because when you go beyond conception, you're beyond conception. I've termed that the language threshold, and I feel this is the most important concept known to the human mind. Anyways, the journey of the real remains. Attention is the presence of energy. Guys, I don't know why I paid for this microphone. I mean, this microphone, it looked so nice on the box of the product, but now I might as well tape this like microphone to my face, you know? Anyways, hopefully this is better. I'll reduce the volume of the music. So I was saying that there's an instantaneity right now, and people can challenge me. People in the guys, sounds are not subliminal messaging. Sounds are just sounds, you know. If a bee, if a person goes beside a beehive, are the bees subliminally putting messages in the person's mind? No, it's sound recording. A person should have a detachment and an ability to attach and detach, think of it, from your inner realm content and your outer realm content. People who can't detach from their inner realm content, they want the world to fit them. And I'm telling you, you suffer that way. Because the world is too big. This is the reality. There is no precision of perfection in a changing system this vast. At best, we can seek stability. That means at best you can tolerate. But anyways, the instantaneity of attention, that means at some point what I was encouraging the audience to challenge me on, these talks are not here just to be one-sided. These talks are here to in some sense try to get the wild philosophers out of, you know, out of cultural statues. The presence of one is experience plus existence. That means if we were going to say what consciousness is, experience plus existence, existence is inanimate and existence is literally just the periodic table. But experience is why the periodic table is moving. And when we come to explain matter, for all those of scientific interest, we in some sense reduce matter to energy. And then energy is the irreducible factor, in the sense that energy in the first law of thermodynamics is considered that which cannot be created or destroyed. Now imagine you have conscious energy. That means consciousness is a type of energy upon all the other types of energy that are contained. That means 2D expression of energy, the 2D angle of energy, matter. The 3D angle of energy, for example, mind. The 4D angle of energy, beyond. You know, guys, I just thought something hilarious. If I had put dolphin sounds, can you imagine the audience? Like, yeah, subliminal programming, you know, dolphins are telling us some stuff. I'm joking. Alright, here. This song is literally called Above Us Only. Above Us Only Sky. So, simultaneity of conscious experience and inanimate, what we would consider unconscious. So we have to, this is the challenge of psychologists, philosophers. I wouldn't say scientists. Scientists can, you know, sit on the bench on this one, but when I'm joking. When a true problem needs as many people to try to solve it, really. I feel this relationship of existence with experience is going to make us realize that we are neither a noun inside a verb, which is the materialist angle, or a verb inside a noun, which is the immaterialist angle. We are simultaneously both within an incomprehensible unity. That means we are a being beyond matter and beyond language. But because we are using them and we can't know we exist unless we use these technologies, we have identification. That means I am not a speaker until I speak. You know, I am not an angry man until I am angry. I am not a happy man until I'm happy. I am not sad until I'm sad. You see, there's something about life that even though events take place, their remaining isn't something that is actually the free will has control. I have sometimes, this is something of, I feel every person is different when it comes to their inner realms. Not I think I know, every person is different in their inner realms, but when it comes to a certain behavior, like I have literally thanked certain ideologies and thoughts and have sent them on their way. You know, I realized something very unique. We care for the human being the most. We don't realize it because we're a human being. We care for the human being. And if a person can care for ideology in a humanized way, what that means is if a person thinks of like the concept of a top hat, the person's going to be like a human being's going to be wearing that top hat, right? So it's like when you relate something to the most important archetype to your intelligence, you open up to its knowing. So believe it or not, I'm kind of like my mind's like a commanding officer when it comes to my sensory perception. My mind commands my sensory perception. But what commands my mind is beyond language and is spontaneous to a degree where I have caught on to it and I have no idea how to write this into a book yet. But there is this idea that behind our eyes is a valve. I think I might be one of the first people speaking about it in this manner. There is a valve. There is a rhythm that one can abide by, where this rhythm knows its moment before having an expectation on a specific relationship of the content inside a sphere. So imagine you had a bunch of pieces of paper in a sphere, each of them a different concept written on it, and this sphere was being shaken. And all these concepts are being shaken in the sphere. They all have a relationship to one another in the sphere, but they also are all inside the one sphere. Imagine a species that found a way to respond to its humanized dimensions of intelligence strategically, efficiently, and had found also an efficient approach to dehumanize psychology, which is very crucial, because as the world becomes a more stranger place with the more addition of unique moving factors, the more human beings come. I mean, literally, the world's becoming a stranger place. The more new dimensions are added to it, you know. There's two types of strangeness. I would say there's a strangeness of remembrance or realization. You realize you were in something bigger. It's like you're right now. Imagine you're the small and the big. So you realize you're in something bigger from the beginning, or you become something bigger. Now, all those people who are power hungry in the world, they want to become bigger. And believe it or not, if a person is not graceful, this is kind of, I'm saying this poetically, your soul doesn't visit you gracefully. That means one state of being suggests how their intelligence has a relationship with them. So what that means is the idea of you is having a relationship with the whole moment, and the whole moment is having a relationship with the idea of you, and the being doesn't realize we're being all of it. Right? And it could be that just if you look at this picture, okay, I'll get to this picture later. I have a specific comment on this, but you know what it's like? It's like your future self realizing you are its memory right now. And when your future self gets the realization, the karma of your past is nullified. That means it's strange that this whole algorithm to get out of this psychological continuity of a transcendental mind game. What can I say? There is so much more than this moment going on, that all that I say will be just a fragment. So whether we like it or not, the species has a fragmented psychology at the moment. And so it's the task of, shall we unite or shall we depart? Should human beings each just implement a solo strategy, or should we care to implement an efficient global strategy? Because ultimately the energy, like in the moment, goes to where the attention has entered the story. So people's lives are like life is a long storytelling, multidimensional event. The story was being told by nature. Then it's been, just recently we have been telling stories in the void. So the world was just being something. And then when we became, individual relationships had meaning. Because the small and the big is, to the big there is no small. They asked truth if it believes in an illusion, and truth started laughing and shouted, "I am the illusion." Because when truth is present, there's nothing else. That is the significance of the value of any transcendental narrative. If there's something more, how can we just accept this? If the mind, if this brain has managed to generate relationships of some sort of linguistic geometry with the world, this cannot be ignored. Intelligence cannot be measured. We have lied to ourselves because we thought words could hold it all. We thought words could hold the world. You see, in this picture, I see something in myself. I don't know why. And I see it in the sense that when a person has the contentment to understand it is okay for them to be their most simplest self and their most complex self, both are okay. And there will come a time in I find every person's eyes where they will notice. You will notice that life can move in any way. You're in an all-you-can-eat buffet of decision making. And so the decisions ultimately have a result to you and to your species, but the win-win strategy is what is the greatest backup system. That means if children are born in a society that is already winning, and the children are winning, so what it means is that pretty much we're going to have the most complex educational system, like primary school and middle school, and the educational system is going to become literally like even superior than university level content. Children are going to have PhDs by the age of 15. I don't know why I feel that this may happen, because it's all about structure and image. That means there is no such thing as a concept, there is an image. Because if there is no image to the concept, what do we see? You see? Let's say the bewildered villager went to the sage and said, "Sage, nothing's going my way. Why is the world like this? Why is this like this?" And the sage doesn't speak for a while, and the villager says even, "Sage, why are you like this even, And the sage says, "Where did it say the world owes you its shape?" I am telling you, there is an empty-handedness of the soul, of one's heart. When you walk in those fields of emptiness, it's no longer even the concept of loneliness. It's like it's like this very unique state of mind where selfhood and worldhood have become so synonymous. There can literally be no such thing as two reference points. So when one enters a state of mind like that, it's as if they are neither born, neither created or destroyed. It's like a way where you can experience energy as energy. There is no birth or death to it, but that's the thing where it's the animateness of the free will. That means it's not what human beings say that is true. It is what is happening as a universal event in one instance that is the truth. I have felt that there has been moments where I have remembered myself not as a person, but as space. Legit space. And I'm telling you, we are space. We don't realize it. We think the soul embodies matter only. It doesn't. It is in space. That means we can say the mind is your body in space. We can say your body is like space in matter. Because one can become the king of nature when they realize nature is its own king. You see, when there is a giant in the room, we can't have the biggest ego. When there is a planetary intelligence at work, and this planetary intelligence has a different scale of creativity compared to the individual, then the individual must sheath their creativity. They must sheath their attention like a sword, and for a moment just try to communicate with the presence of their living world. That is the most important thing. If anybody in these talks hears one thing, forget language and go experientially communicate with the presence of your living world. There, as Terence McKenna very incredibly says, there's another tenant in the room. In this existential landscape, there is a mind space. We are like living inside ourselves. Do you see? We are living inside an attention. We are being the spotlight where we are also the body's movements is the actor in, you know? In Vedic thought, they have this concept, they call it Leela, L-E-E-L-A, and it means the play. And in Sufi tradition, there was parallels to this too. And what it meant is that even Shakespeare understood this when he says to be or not to be, he's touching upon that state of mind. Where life is just a program, and the word program didn't exist back in the day, so it was a play. It was just various factors, elements just moving. That means honestly, physically, when materialistically you look at life, it's bizarre. It's bizarre. Materialism is I would say it's dangerous for a mind. And let me tell you what I mean by this. Right? Because a human being that is alive once in an existential opportunity that is a rare occurrence after 4.5 billion years, the planet is in a unique state. I'm not saying this points to some sort of destiny, but I'm saying like the programmer is kind of, creating destiny. The danger of materialism is that it can exile the multidimensionality it needs to develop a greater depths in character, in human character. So, believe it or not, as long as we are emotional beings, we cannot be convinced by one dimension. And there will be people and other pilots who will suddenly show themselves in the realm. That means pilots come when there has to be relocation of states of mind. Advanced communicators arise because the communication is not advanced already. If everything can be advanced by the beginning, that means there's a shortcut to everything that I'm saying. That a person finds their most simplest self, their most simplest foolish self, and your most complex intelligent self. Both of these bow. And who are they bowing to? They are bowing to the unknown self. That means the known dimensions of chaos and order both bow to the unknown dimensions, to the chaos and order of the unknown. That means there's a metaphysics to order and there's a metaphysics to chaos. And that metaphysics to chaos is pretty much like the I would say the elder brother endless progression, you can call it. What I mean by this is that chaos has an older brother. If chaos makes a mistake, so imagine chaos and order both have older brothers, okay? And then chaos and order, they fight. And now, instead of order coming and hitting chaos, or chaos coming and hitting order, in superior universal law, chaos's older brother comes and grabs chaos and slams that chaos. And order's older brother comes and grabs order and slams order down until it realizes its place. Because there is not just gods in the walls, there is skies for the sky. That means Can you imagine? Even the sky is even wondering how big the sky is. There is an original Earth in human world generation. That original Earth is neither the observed, is neither the observer. It is. And those who can't comprehend, those who are not content with just this world, that means if somebody was like, what is this world? And somebody says, it just is, man. I don't know what to tell you. It just is, right? that is totality's enlightenment. It's like, all right, we got rid of the ego of the individuals. Yay! It's like, oh my God, we got rid of the ego of planets. And then after that, we're like, oh my God, the galaxy has an ego too. We imagine we get rid of the ego of the galaxy, and eventually we will recognize energy is everywhere. Dear listeners, you are everywhere. Listen to this statement. You have 2 ears, so hear it in 2 ways. You are everywhere. You are it. Because the mind has no other option when it comes to being a glow in a dark room. And you see the eye in this picture I've chosen for this episode. The eyes of the dragon have noticed this guy who has a crown floating above his head. What does the crown imply? The crown implies the person has mastered duality. That means there is this thing, I think this is an duality can be seen as, I don't know, this is a personal opinion. In my view, duality through the theological lens can be seen as just Lucifer's abode. Theologically. Theology, I'm talking about the philosophy of religion to some degree. So if duality, an abode of endless chaos and order, in through certain narratives, not all, I would say at least one that would I could connected to what I'm saying is Dantes Inferno. Maybe there's imagery there. But this notion that in this concept of hell, the classification of the creatures in hell were like princes and kings. Isn't it strange? On earth, the idea of a king is seen as godly, divine. Underneath earth, in certain stories of ancient archaic legend, it's as if it's in some sense the opposite. So it's as if chaos has a royalty as much as order has a royalty. Okay. And so when I say royalty, a sort of king and kingdom and queendom to it, you know. All around the queendom there can be, I mean, we have kingdom, right? It's just the other side, but anyways, this idea of the king can be perceived as one who has mastered their duality. They have mastered, they have in some sense understood both sides of the coin, of how their moment's existence is happening. And that means life has taken the individual through the eyes of being not being the king, then being the king, then being the kingdom, and then all three at once. Then it's like one has mastered duality. Not that they're a master of duality, but they have mastered comprehending its nature enough to respond to it as it arises. Now, this character, I don't know what the story is, I don't know what the artist, illustrator envisioned. But for me, it's when the presence of truth in these beings is combating. That means which holds the, what was the saying? In Sun Tzu Art of War, it was like heaven and earth, right? And so like upper ground, the person who had higher ground was like on, heaven was more on their side. It was like that angle. But not the monotheistic heaven. More like a Taoistic kind of flow. And so that means the presence of truth, which is it, in who is it stronger? That means if this creature has lived less truthfully to itself than this in this small human being or whatever, this small mage, like it would be that this creature does not have authorization to step into the presence of this being. There is cases like that. It's all about awareness in the room. And I'm telling you, those who just, if you just care for the world, your life, your mind will activate strangely. But now the challenge is, and I understand this personally, the challenge is creating an incredible system where a human being can live a healthy mind's life and a healthy body's life. Now, if we could learn through our bodies inside of our minds. So when I'm giving these talks, imagine, I think cyberspace will be the epitome, the peak of education. That means there's no longer going to be teachers teaching on blackboards. There's going to be children entering cyberspace simulations like obstacle course, like an obstacle course video game. In the video game, they will actually experience, like if the history teacher is giving a history lesson, all the children in the classroom suddenly plugged into the cyberspace simulation, they go into that moment in history and they go and play a role in there, right? And they experientially remember. Right? And the concept of checking a person, they know something in a changing world is foolish. Socrates says the only true wisdom is to know that you know nothing. And then the educational system is like, okay, tell me what the past said right now in the present that has totally changed from the past. You know? And we feel we're certified to go into the world. It's not complete. You know, there's so much that requires to happen in regards to all the other dimensions of intelligence that haven't been explored. People don't realize 2020 is literally that time in history where minds have realized they are beyond language. Language has become a technology for exploration, for knowing the unknown. And now, in a world where history is unwritten, people don't realize. Let me tell you, there's no such thing as a history book. There's just this giant white page, and then the history is like the top left corner of it. You know, just a little bit of it is written, and all that space is waiting. You don't understand. If a human being lives in you, I will tell you, you have served your civilization way more than just living like the past. Right? That means have an honor for the new as well. Excuse me. Because if our mind is our responsibility to move, then, and if our movements are based on how well we have understood the world, then it's our responsibility to understand the world. That means there is no such thing as a teacher. There's just a creature, like a hunger. I gotta say this again. Like let's say a creature seeking food. There has to be a mind being like, why is this happening? Oh, like seeking. Now those people who go in this truth-seeking path, hopefully these talks help them bypass that algorithm. But what it is that the person has to ritualistically get out of an emotional selfhood from the past. That means the whole point of the ritual in ancient shamanic times was like an evocation, new authorization for a new event. The atheistic mind looks at metaphysics and looks at superstition and is like, hey man, it's like keep this for, it's like share superstition with Hollywood, not the scientific community. But I'll tell you, it's not superstition, it's cultural need. That means we have to realize the mind, and after a very long time, an object became a subject to itself. This subject is unknown. Because it is unknown, it has things to do to try to know itself. If we knew everything right now, there would be no point to life. There would be no reason for me. If everybody knew everything right now, there would be no reason for me to give these talks, right? And that could be like the whole aim of transcendence, where a person is trying to take the level of everything to the beyond. I mean, seriously. People have to just wonder, why does the concept beyond even exist if we are to just accept this framework of ideology from just one moment in time, in the space-time continuum? We need an educational system that makes the world feel like 8 billion kings and queens. Why? Because the kingdom is the whole point. That means who cares about individual identity, really? Like for me, really, when I'm around people, like personality is, there's more reason to be personified, to be a person. But when I'm alone in nature, like when I'm going for a walk in a park, like there's nothing there. There's just being. It's all just being, and I'm just watching. It's like these eyes, like a meter, like these eyes, like honestly the brain is like a drone. It's just it's like our sight is at a certain elevated level. We're just moving in the space-time continuum. We are winds of attention moving through the realm, beyond the fears of a life that can die, because that doesn't even make sense. If the concept of life is defined as being alive, then there's no such thing as death. That means, think of it this way, that we can't understand the concept of death. We say before we have, like, something has to be alive in order for it to transition out of the realm. Right? So we have to be alive before we can exit. We have to enter the room before we can exit it. I'm just suggesting that life by definition is not death. So if we are life, death is how life transforms. So if life by definition is alive, then in some sense death has nothing. It's like we went from one room to another, and we thought that we called that that whole life and death situation, right? So there is a multidimensionality at work. And it's not that ideology, I'm saying it's not necessary. I see it this way. There was a time where people would worship objects, in the religious, through the religious lens. There's like the story of Abraham, right? People were worshiping, so I don't know if people know this, but probably not now. People, I don't know. I think people don't care to know now. But it's like death cannot touch life. but it's the story of Abraham that I want to share was pretty much, think of it that there was this house, okay, and this empty house, and people kept their statues. People worshiped during a time of idolatry, idol worship. People just, imagine finding a feather, a stick, I don't know, sheepskin or something, and like worshiping that as a god, worshiping an object as an ultimate truth. Then Abraham comes one day, tells these people, what are you guys doing? Stop worshiping this. And people are like, no, who are you to tell us what to worship? Get out of here, Abraham. And so once the Abraham just leaves, and then when and of course the story is not 100% accurate the way I'm saying it, but the idea is that Abraham, once all those people who worship their own gods, self-created gods, once they all left, Abraham came and in some sense broke all the other gods, put like a, I don't know, hammer or something beside one of the gods. So he broke all the gods except one of them. And then he stood in there and he waited, evidently. And so all the people come back and they're like, Abraham, did you do this? And he's like, no, this one God broke all the other gods, and they're like, this God doesn't have hands, you did it, Abraham. And they're like, no, Abraham's just like, if their God doesn't have hands, it's not God, like something in those lines, right? And so what happens is that was a sort of awakening at that time, where a human being had come, a pilot had come and was like, hey, you're looking at an object, it's more than an object. Now, what happened after idol worship? Idea worship, and that's the scary part, right? That's the freaky part, where to this day it still continues. People are worshiping ideas as if they have no free will, as if they have it's easier to dismiss their animate will. It's easier for them to be a passenger than a pilot of their own life. And so it is true that certain states of supreme mystical awareness suggest that it's all one, so it's all one flow, so there is no doer, so there is no identity. But I'm saying it's like, if you realize that, then you have no problem being an identity. Then there never was a problem if it's all one to be an identity. That means from the beginning the divine was in the right place. So ideology is not bad. Idea worship is bad. Ideas they're just shapes. It's how you use them. They're like a technology. Language is a technology, ultimately. When I speak, honestly, it feels like I'm picking up a technology, and then at the end, when I stop speaking, I put down this technology. It really feels like that. In the outer realms, greatest game the human species can play is to advance civilization. In the inner realms is to advance communication. That means the soul is like, the mind and body are complaining, and the soul's like, okay, let me see what I can do. And the soul is like, hey body, hey human body, what do you want to do here? Do you want me to imagine the soul is like the manager, and imagine the body and the mind are the employees. And so the manager's like, all right, employee, what do you want? Yeah. And so the body's like, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I haven't slept, I haven't been animate, all these things, And then the soul's like, okay, we heard that employee review. And then the soul goes to the mind, trying to manage the mind. It's like, what do you want? And the mind's like, I want to go places. I want to move. I want to advance. I want to go higher up. I want. So in a more futuristic way, it's as if the soul says, "Body, what do you want? I want an advanced civilization." It's like, mind, what do you want? I want an advanced state of being. Yogis attempted the ultimate superior state of being. That means yogis, to me, are pretty much like advanced communicators that attempted to build the advanced civilization behind their eyes. They attempted to find the ultimate state of the mind. to wonder even if there was such a thing, right? How many people are just trying to be in a certain state of mind or have a certain kind of mind? You know, how many people are like, yo, what is this whole show? You know, and truly becoming explorers of the realm, where the honor starts alone, you walk alone for a long time, then you get comfortable. Then nothing bothers you, believe it or not. Like it's strange. It's like after you get through all those things that are causing one a self-induced internal discomfort, you just get through, just plow through, like as if it's a snowy day and, you know, you're paid to shovel the snow, you know. For me, in my inner realms, I make myself sometimes more foolish because it's easier to emotionally manage. You know, that means sometimes through silliness, I can release emotion. And silliness, of course, it's just either a connection made too soon or a connection made too late. Anyways, one must consider there's greater dimensions to their being. One must consider that these greater dimensions are intelligent beyond language. Therefore, the only way to communicate, a 2D being can communicate with a square can communicate with a cube, is by just trusting the part of the cube it is. When it trusts the part of the cube it is, and it trusts the other, 4 other cubes, then it in some sense becomes 5 other cubes. It becomes complete. That means there is no soul. You can't be a soul. Your body, your mind can revert beyond the body into what it was before it was, and that is the original Earth, the true state of humanity, the true humanity. It's a state of mind. We're not in the mind that our species deserves. We have walked astray from the roars of the lions within. Because what is sad is not 8 billion cries of anguish in the void. What is sad is the time that went to the cries that could have gone to strategy. And I'm telling you, the designers of the future, they are the salvation of humanity is in them. All the issues on this planet are not because people are too cruel or people are too nice. It's not because of that. It's a design issue. It's a structure issue. And if we can use our consciousness to update the structure, because what? The squirrels and birds aren't going to do it. Like, you know, we're not going to see penguins come and try to like discover a new language for a multidimensional human mind to arise in the cultural sphere. Honestly, one of my favorite scenes was those penguins from that first Madagascar movie, where at the end of it the ship doesn't have gas, but the penguins like just smile and wave. That's kind of like what human civilization is, like, you know, because to in some sense be able to this was one of the most incredible sentences I've heard in my life. You must serve before you command. And I believe it's from George Patton. I don't know who that is, but the quote is epic. You must serve before you command. So that service is trust in both your simplicity. That means don't try to find your complexity. People want to be complex too, so I'm telling you, just try to be simple and see what happens to the karma of the moment. You'll make you laugh. You'll realize that why humor is victory. It is the laughter is multidimensional. Only I would say you have to have multiple dimensions of reference to be able to laugh. You have to have multiple references to be able to cry. Fear and desire similarly. I am telling you, our mind is multidimensional. That means we have to teach people 3 languages on this earth: a language of the body, a language of the mind, and the language of the soul. The language of the soul intentionally will be kept as a question mark, so that till the end of time we wonder about that, because it is the liberation of the other 2 languages. The languages of the body is some sort of easy, make a person healthy incredibly fast kind of strategy, right? That means we need innovation rather than repetition. I'm telling you, it's like if a person doesn't touch novelty throughout the day, a part of their soul, like an iceberg, cracks and just they like, life requires to be active. Energy has to be used when it's there. That means, that's why I'm saying precision in the inner realms just becomes like leaping from emotion to emotion. And the speed of the inner realms can be so fast, because we can tell a person, hey, visualize a cube hovering in the air, like a glowing blue cube slowly rotating in the air. Like, a person can visualize that. Now imagine we're saying visualize you in 1 second experience 7 emotions, or in 1 second experience 10,000 years, or the mind starts making leaps of conceptual depth. And only this comes when you have found the playfulness to trust physical reality. That means that whole yogic I'm telling you, there is no air in a world where we don't even know what we're looking at. Right? That means all those people who are it's like, we can't be absolutist yet we have to have an ability to wonder as well, you know. So it's strange that it's not about finding right or wrong. It's trying to see as many dimensions to the moment until we have found a dimension that works. And I'm telling you, practice this, whoever you are. Whatever problem you have in your life, instantly implement this model of first asking yourself, is the problem from your inner realms or outer realms? If it's an emotional problem, inner realms. It can be. Do you know? If it's a problem of, let's say, ego or desire or something, it's inner realms. But if the problem is in the outer realms, let's say you're in a burning house, get out of the burning house. Right? You can't sit in a burning house and meditate and feel like you're gonna be enlightened. You know, it's like, so the person has to, if the problem is in the outer realms, have an outer realm resolution. And the most important thing is the mind requires its own unique attention to be governed, and the body requires its own unique attention. So it's so important to treat them like 2 rooms. I personally didn't treat them as 2 rooms, and there's repercussions. Right? As 2 separate rooms. So the language of the body would be that by just children at a young age are taught just incredible health knowledge. Like, they should have incredible health knowledge, yeah. And that's the language of the body. The language of the mind is the pursuit of the human effort to make sense of this unknown event that we have literally, like plants, just popped out of nowhere. Then the soul's language will be how experiences collectively move beyond individualism. So the soul's language is experience, direct experience. The body's language becomes indirect ideology, and the mind is just the commanding officer. Body is the soldier, mind is the commanding officer, soul is the general. And just like in battle, the general doesn't come out into the battlefield until it is very necessary, until the body and mind have been defeated or are on the verge of defeat, and then the general needs to come, as if like if you were playing chess, the queen chess piece, the most intense chess piece now goes into the battlefield. You send in the queen, you know. So what I mean by this is that the general comes in just to get the mind. And if the mind is out of line due to one's nature, one's nature of being, which is not ideological. And the moment it's not ideological, it's not possible to have any relationship with interdimensional beings, because they are made through narrative until you're experientially perceiving it. And to perceive something in the inner realms, because it is not in the outer realms, must be treated as one's personal universe. And so that personal universe, and impersonal universe, that means there's 8 billion personal universes, there's one impersonal universe. And we're all moving around in this impersonal universe, personalizing it based on, oh my god, all the memories and images, like all the content in my mind is like, processing everything in this manner. Because once you get over the blame game of the self and the world, then there is a strange silence, and in that silence one dwells as if like a samurai like a samurai at the edge of a cliff staring at the world beyond. And the samurai suddenly, after being in that serene silence of the vastness of the universal being, then the being begins working from their heart. And then their karma, it becomes their real karma, but the true stepping out of karma is like you complete your effort, whatever that is. And your effort is not in a way where one is seeking the efficient vision of civilization, I mean, it's like there's no point. It's so hilarious. It's as if we wanted to be animals, people should just have to tear off their clothes and run into the forest and start making growls or something, right? There's a reason we're behaving civilized. There's a reason we're standing on our two legs. There's a reason we are, building here, right? And so that reason can be forgotten just through metaphysical through certain yogic renunciate modalities, because I looked into this. There in Zen and Brahmanism, there were certain views of a question in the chat section has caught my eye. Lorna says, if self is so counterproductive, why do we? It's not counterproductive, it's a dimension. The soldier is not counterproductive. The soldier, if it listens to the commanding officer, it will not be counterproductive. If the commanding officer listens to its nature, what it was before it had to be, then in some sense, one just has a strong presence, they dwell in the realm. And what tends to happen is that you just begin to see every way you walked, think of it, the way you have lived so far on this life has been in a causal input. So the moment you begin to you're about to exit the system, you begin to see everything. You see the effect of everything. Why? Because you are leaving an intelligent field. And the reason you see it is because the world gives you that ability. That rewind that people feel in the near-death experience that some have fathomed, that rewind is the last gift of the earth to you as you leave the field, as you leave the memory field. Because intelligence in space is a totally different approach. We can't even think about it as through thought. That means it's like right now the species is so limited to language that if an alien civilization came, they wouldn't need to even invade us with advanced technology and laser beams and all this. All they had to do was just come and change our language, because we think we are the words. We haven't realized the unknown witness in the moment. And we don't even have the audacity to say it's unknown, right? The educational system has glorified the misleading. Let me tell you why. No, I'm being critical, not to, of course, there's so many different types of ways the educational system's happening, of course. I'm just saying, generally what I see is there isn't an effort towards the unknown. So I feel when a person gives up on the unknown, they become very prone to cruelty. If a person doesn't realize there's unknown dimensions to the moment, then they brand themselves easily and they get locked into that ideological possession. Because literally, I have seen a person in this life, like, I don't know how to say it. It's like someone doing something, then someone saying something, shouting at something at them at the end of the street, and that person's psychology turning. Do you know what it is? That means it's like when someone says something and the other person gets angry, that's successful magic. That person was able to use sound to transform the other person. You know what I mean? So you see, it's the intent also. What intent you have as a being to the world. If you're resisting it, you will fight it. If you love it, you will trust it. I believe it was Martin Luther King. He had a very incredible quote where it was like, I have realized hate is too heavy, too great of a burden to carry. I don't know if that's exactly it. But something in those lines, where to just have something you're hating is like, it's like, what kind of a deformed, cultural entity are you? It's like their hatred has to be instantly released. You dismiss it. That means the ideas that don't want to serve you in your mind space, you in some sense dismiss them because they have no contribution to some degree. There is that realm of ability of human beings getting to a point where they are managing how their attention is being a thought before they move. And when your real eyes remember you, imagine there's, let's say, 4 dimensions to you. Let's say right now we weren't dualistic being, we were an infinite being. Right now, let's just for a second fathom we're an infinite being. And now look at the topic, the title where I say when you realize, remember you. Now imagine you're an infinite being. Then suddenly, your dualistic self remembers you. Your dualistic intelligent presence in nature remembers you. Now imagine your dualistic self, your singular self, the real eyes of the singular self for the dualistic self remember it. Now beyond the singular self, your void eyes remember it. And when you have become sight and space before matter was born, you are not just free. The universe has become your breath. And then the cycle is complete. Why have all these human beings on this planet walked forth into time? Why? It's as if time is like an escalator, one of those horizontal escalators in an airport, and everybody's on it, and people are not wondering, why is this escalator going this way? And there is no answer that could be content. The cultural program has dimensions of emotional decision making. As long as we have emotions, rationalists are going to be irritated till the end of time. Do you know? And a rationalist can get irritated with oneself. Do you see? Because life is more of like surfing alongside the intelligence of a living universe, rather than just rather than a linguistic just analysis. For me, I feel this is just my karma as a being to come and fight language. You know, like it's strange. So many things in life, you're like, okay, why did the flower, sprout? Why did that tree give fruit? It's like, who knows? Nature is an event that goes forth. you know. And so the real eyes eventually lead to an acceptance of your world. That means many people accept themselves. Good for you, go clap in the mirror. But how many people accept their world for what it is? That means you should have an automatic compassion. That means we accept people for who they are, but do we accept the world for what it is? No. Because as long as something better exists, we won't be content. That is the truth of man. That's what an ideological creature does. You know, that's the Shakespearean play. People should treat themselves like an instrument. An instrument, their body an instrument for their mind. Their mind, which is being played by, just call it, you can't call it consciousness because that's conditional to form, but you can call it awareness. So there will come a moment in this life where awareness could never die, and a great laughter will find you. A noble, honorable, soul-redeeming laughter will find you, as if your eyes, the eyes of your eyes have noticed you, not you have noticed them. It becomes like it's like being in the presence of the greatness of your greatest potential before ever needing to do anything. It's as if this king, you know what this king is doing? This king is probably, I see parallels to the picture I've chosen for this video to what I'm saying. This king is wondering if this creature is probably intelligent or not. I mean, like, you know, evidently in mythology, dragons somehow can telepathically talk, so they're pretty much aliens. I mean, like, you know, Daenerys was communicating with the aliens in Game of Thrones. You know? To be at peace before being in pieces. Who can step beyond the shire of their belief and throw the idea of the past, like Frodo throwing that ring into, what is it, Mount Mordor or Mount Doom or something? I don't know. I feel if every person's presence is unique. Every person's inner realm is unique. That means we have the both of best worlds. We have the best. We have an access to being an object that is projecting a mind, and we have access to being a mind that is projecting the free will of a body. These are like wings. So objects and subjects, they should become very easy, because the advanced communicators and their efforts of the pilots of the future are going to be so beyond this. This is like easy. It should be easy for people to notice objects in the moment, and it should be easy for them to notice subjects, and it should also be easy for them to notice how subjects come and go. That means a person can be angry, but I'm telling you, if you just stand still and like freeze yourself, like pause yourself like a video game when you're angry. Can you imagine an angry person becoming like a still statue? And the person they're in a discussion with the other angry person suddenly stops being angry. It's like, what are you doing? And it's like the person's just paused their anger. Just in space and time, you know? So that person who pauses their anger, as Ramana Maharshi says, let what comes come, let what goes go, see what remains. That seer, when you see what remains, that means only the seer remains. You will eventually realize that seer, the only reason we call it the observer is because there is the observed. But when we go beyond the observed, even the concept of the observer goes away. And this is when your own, it's as if your body, this could be even a great metaphor, your body becomes a disciple of your mind. Your mind becomes a disciple of your own unknown being. But your own unknown being is kept in the reverence of a sort of sacredness. That means when I speak in these talks, some people I've said it's like, why are you giving pearls to swine? And I was like, first of all, I don't see any swine and I don't have any pearls. But I when the statement echoed further, I in some sense, what was it? Oh my god. Song. Okay. Everything I'm sharing is not. There's some things in my inner realms that go beyond the language threshold. I cannot share even if I want to. And I have learned that in order for me not to have a sort of internal how would I say it? It's as if my attention is constantly every moment of my life on the edge of how I am knowing the moment. So the unknown is really where my truth is. The unknown is unknown. The unknown is the truth. And when we fear the unknown, we think life has to be, and then when we think it has to be, we think we have to be a certain thought. When we think we have a certain thought, we are distracted by consumerism, and when we're distracted by consumerism, we forget that there was a life waiting to be lived here. An advanced life, an efficient one. It's like the skies are accessible the moment you have wings. Pilot on to the beyond. There is no greater glory. Thanks for listening. Namaste.